Hello, everyone. This is Pam, de Café con Pam, the bilingual podcast that features Latine and people of the global majority who break barriers, change lives, and make this world a better place. Welcome to episode 342 of Café con Pam. Today, we have a conversation with Flor Blake. Flor is a celebrity and personal branding photographer with a style consistent of creative, bold, and dynamic imagery. Flor knows everybody is gorgeous and is on a mission to help you connect with and embrace your inner badass to conquer your world. She has made striking portraits of Michelle Obama, Gloria Estefan, Octavia Spencer, Gloria Steinem, Rigoberta Menchú, Misty Copeland, and many more beautiful faces. Some of her clients include Shane Company, The Wall Street Journal, Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains, etc., etc., etc. Flor's work has been seen in Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, BuzzFeed, The Photographic Journal, 5280 Magazine Inc., El Nuevo Dia, The Denver Post, and so many more. Flor is a contagious ambassador for self-love, confidence, diversity, and inclusion, and she wants you to celebrate your existence at every age and every weight because you're always worthy. Flor travels around the world to give her clients the best personal branding photoshoot experience they'll ever have. After Flor's photoshoot experience, clients have gotten promotions, increased engagements in social media, booked more speaking engagements. They've made more money and transformed the way they see themselves because they understood how beautiful, powerful, and photogenic they've always been. Flor is based in Colorado, and Puerto Rico, where she lives with her wife, Ilianexis, and their 3 plants. That was my favorite part of the bio, actually. Listeners, this is a super fun conversation, so I do want to give you some caveats here. We had a lot of technical difficulties at the beginning, so you will feel the interview a little bit. I hope you don't feel it rushed because we spent a lot of time dealing with the tech, and that kind of left us with less time to do the interview. However, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this one because as you can hear with Flor's bio, she's super fun. And her story is incredible. We actually didn't get to explore more parts of it. I mean, I guess I say this with every guest. You know, there's always so many layers that we can uncover. Pero con esta entrevista, I think this is one for those of you who are looking for that little, like, I just need a little tiny nudge to do something that you've been wanting to do and obstacles keep coming across you. Flor will really leave you inspired with saying, you know what? I can carve my own path. Y bueno, con eso ahí te dejo so you can enjoy it. Sin más, aquí está mi conversación con Flor Blake. Flor, welcome to Café con Pam. ¿Cómo estás?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited that it's Café con Pam, and I love the take on it. So,
and we're gonna have actual pan.
We are gonna have actual pan and actual café. I'm so excited. I do. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, me too. Same. We'll talk about it during the cafecito break. Pero bueno, primero, la primera pregunta que siempre hacemos is, what's your heritage?
I am Dominican. I was born and raised in Dominican Republic. This is a long answer, but it needs to be a long answer. And then I moved to Puerto Rico when I was 14. So I kind of sort of like finished growing up in Puerto Rico. So I consider myself both, even though I was born and raised in the R. I went to college here. All my friends are here. So I eat pan sobao, and it's like a thing here.
Pan sobao. Yeah. Me estás antojando. Pero algo interesante, y yo no tengo pan. That's the problem. Maybe I should start having pan on all my interviews.
I mean, are you serious? Like, I planned this the whole week. I'm like, I need to have pan. Pan.
I know. Listeners, Flor came prepared with literal café con pan.
Oh, it smells so good. It's Dominican coffee too. So
Bueno, nos vamos a regresar a tu historia. You were talking about your heritage and how you're born and raised in Dominican Republic y luego during your teen years te fuiste a Puerto Rico, and then so maybe we can explore a little bit about that migration que sucede, which I don't know if people talk about it enough, of Dominicans going to Puerto Rico, and then once que están en Puerto Rico, then maybe they can move to the US. Like that's a common thing that happens, no?
yes, it is common that it happens that when I mean that's what I did, right? So my parents moved here, so because they moved here first, and then that my dad asked me, like you know how it works, like they ask for their children, and then we come. So that was taken care of by the time you know that I was an adult, so I didn't have to worry about that. So I recognized my privilege in that sense. Um, so I came here and I went to high school in Puerto Rico, and I went to college as well. So I did, which was great because it's so much more affordable than in the U.S. So much more affordable, even the private ones.
Sí, claro, for sure. How was it for Flor Chiquita to move at such a, I mean, being 14, right? Being like in your teens and doing such a radical move, even though like weather might be the same, it's still a different place. How was it for you to transition?
You know, it was hard and exciting at the same time. So I know because my parents moved before. I wasn't a great math student, so before I left, so I was great at everything else, but math is obviously not my forte. So I had to stay behind for a couple of months so I could finish like the last exams. I think I flunked. I can remember, but I think I needed to do one more test. So I had to stay behind with my grandma for about 2 months, so 2 extra months. And so leaving was really hard because that meant that I was going to leave my grandma behind who raised us, right?
Mm.
So the last visual that I have of my grandma is of her on the door frame saying goodbye to me. So that was really hard. And it was harder. I didn't realize it then. It was harder because I already had an inclination for photography back then. Like I knew I loved photos. So I grabbed all of our albums, all of our photo albums, and I decided that I was going to grab, because my parents had an album for all of us, right? So each one of us has their own photo album with pictures when we were little. And so I'm like, and I grabbed, and then my parents had a wedding album. So I just grabbed all five big ass albums and I put them in my backpack and I took them. So it wasn't until maybe 2 weeks after I was in Puerto Rico that 2 3 weeks that my mom got upset with me, and then she said something like, oh my god, and you didn't even leave her photos behind. And so that's still, you know, it's not something that haunts me every day, but I sometimes I think about it and I'm like, oh my god, yeah, the only thing that she had left once I left was gonna be those albums,
Mm.
right? And but then she didn't have them because I took them. My sisters are were so grateful, right, that I brought those for them. And at the beginning, my parents were too, but then it was like, wait a minute. But then we all thought, wait, then that means that she doesn't have any pictures of us. Um, so that part was really tough, right? Because you're little, like I was a teen, I was 14, I didn't think it through. And that was the last time I saw my grandma. Like I couldn't like then she passed 2 years after that she passed, and I never like saw her again. So you know, and like it was a mess, right? So like our family, it was hard for us to go back, and so anyway, so that was a mess. So and so that it's a very, it's not necessarily a triggering memory, but it is a hard memory of me leaving the art that I don't think I talk about it enough. So then, the transition was hard because I went to high school here, and high school is not a fun time for most teens, and and I was in an awkward age, the awkward stage that your body is at when you're 14. So it was weird. It was tough. I don't know if I was made fun of at the beginning because of my accent, because my accent is very different.
Claro.
Dominicans, we speak very different than people from Puerto Rico, and I remember distinctly that girls talking behind me, but it wasn't like they were just saying, "Oh, that's the girl that speaks weird." And I'm like, weird because I pronounce all my R's and all the S's where they go, because I was raised in, I went to private, I went to a Catholic school for the last few years that I was in the R. And so we spoke very properly, and it was, so it was interesting because I was a very proper person. I spoke very properly, very proper Spanish, and with a Dominican accent, so they didn't know what to do with me. So it was interesting. Yeah, but it wasn't that they were necessarily mean at that beginning. Mean things happen after, but I just think that that's just high school, like the high school experience. Then I found friends, and everything was fine, and you know, and now I'm here.
We're still there. Did you ever have conversations, whether with your sisters or your parents, about what people were saying, like that you were different?
Yeah, I remember wanting to go back. Oh my God, I didn't know we were gonna go here.
This happens at Café con Pam.
Yes, it does. I'm gonna have to add some coquito to this
Oof.
coffee. That's what I should do. So one thing that happened that made us, even if we didn't want to have a conversation, we ended up having a conversation. Was one of my sisters, the one that follows me,
La que sigue de ti.
like I sigue después de mí, sí. She was in middle school. She's like a year and a half younger than I am. And she had a fight at school, and she had her backpack. And so they pulled her backpack down so she couldn't move her arms. And they sort of slashed her. They didn't sort of, they slashed her face.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So she got home with an open wound, and the scar's not as visible now. It's very faint. And I remember that distinctly because that made me want to be like, okay, so I mean, and obviously I wanted to go fight them, but my obviously my parents got really overly protective of all of us, um, and then I'm like, well, if I can fight them, then I can let them know that I'm not like them. And because she was Dominican, right? Because
Right.
this was 33 years ago or so. And I stand in front of the mirror, and I was practicing my accent and the sayings and the idioms and all of that until I got rid of my accent. So you can only hear my accent when I speak with my family. But when I'm not with my family,
You sound Puerto Rican.
I sound Puerto Rican. It's like you could never tell that I'm not. Yes. So, obviously, we were having this conversation with a couple that came to visit. They're a really cool African American couple that used to live in Denver. And I'm like, we must have dinner. And so it was so interesting because my wife is telling her about her experience growing up in Puerto Rico because they asked. And then I said this story. And she goes, "Oh my God! So you're not having an accent? It's a trauma response." And I'm like,
Yes.
"Shit! I didn't even realize that until that very moment about 5 weeks ago, right?" So
Wow.
yes. So I mean, I guess I deep down knew that it was a trauma response, but not in so many words, not in the world of TikTok now. I mean, I'm sure she's a brilliant woman. And this is what she does. She works in education. So of course she's not on TikTok, and this is not where she gets her language. But we are in a world right now where, or at least my algorithm, it talks, it's about emotional intelligence. It's a mix of like photography, emotional intelligence, politics. This is my algorithm, and like let's just learn about the world and our differences, and how we can work together. And some cute kids like trying to like eat lemons in their faces, right? So that's my algorithm. And now we have so much language around everything, right? So that's like 5 weeks ago I realized that. And also we realized that the experience is completely different now. Like 30 years after, we are, because I'm 44, so it was literally 30 years ago. 30 years after now, we live in a globalized world. Even like Puerto Rico, it's globalized, right? There's so many people moving here, not just from Dominican Republic, but we have people from Colombia living here, from Venezuela, lots of Cubans. So we have, it's like a melting pot of America in a way, right? Of like Latin America. And there are a ton of people from the US that are living here because we have laws that, a lot of millionaires living here.
Gentrification at its finest.
Yeah, yes, at its finest. And And with that comes that it's very different, the experience here for people that are moving, right? Because we already know so much of every other country thanks to the influencers of that country, or like the people that are online just talking about their lived experience. So right now, I mean, I don't speak for everybody in the world, but I know that whoever, like if a Dominican moves here now, I don't know that they will have the same experience that we had when my sisters and I speak about my sisters and I because my parents were parents, and so they were out working, and I'm a Gen X, like I'm at the cusp. I'm a Gen Xer, a Senial, and so my sisters are millennials. So it's very, So it was it's a very Gen X thing to have your parents go out work and you like don't open the door to
Right.
strangers, things like that. And like that was a collective lived experience for everybody. So I'm sure that somebody that moves here now from any country, Puerto Ricans are so hospitable. They're so generous. They're super fun. And that's why I say I'm kind of like from both places. Because if that would have been my experience consistently for the last 30 years, I don't think that I would tell you, I finished growing up in Puerto Rico and that's important because this is home.
I love that.
And my wife is Puerto Rican, and I love her, and all of my best friends are Puerto Rican,
And you live there.
and I live here. Yeah, and my parents live here, and my aunts and cousins live here. So this is definitely home.
For sure. So, to fast forward a little bit, how did you get into photography?
Okay, so
I mean, you were into it because you took the albums from grandma.
I was into it because I took the albums. I was into it because I was always curious about cameras. And I took a class when I was in college, and I was really excited at the beginning, but my professor was not the best. So I sort of lost interest. And then 7, 8 years later, I was living in New York. And I mean, before that, let me back up a little. I went to an orientation because for a hot second, I thought I'm going to do a master's degree in photography. And I
Wow.
went to, yeah, so I'm like, I'm doing this.
Going all in.
Yeah, so I'm like, if I'm doing it, I'm going to get the education. It's funny because, and I say for a hot second, because I swore that when I finished my BA, I'm like, I'm never going back to like standardized school.
What's your undergrad in?
It's not that hard. It's communications with. I was just tired of going to school.
I mean, school is
Because
hard.
I've been in school since I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
Like I was learning, like was reading and writing by the time I was like probably 3.5 or 4. So it's been a while. So I was like done. I didn't want to like wake up early for school. Little did I know that I would have to wake up early for work, but that's another story. So, anyways, long story short, I went to the orientation, and they're explaining everything, and I'm getting excited. And they're like, okay, so they get to the part where they're talking about the schedule for the classes. So I was going to be in classes from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m.
Ooh,
from Monday through Thursday.
that's
And then
intense.
weekends were to exactly, and then weekends were to complete assignments, and this was a 2-year program, and then I asked, okay, cool. So I am in school from 7 to 10 for 4 days a week, and then I can't work because I have to finish my my homework. So so how much is this? So how do people pay for this?
Right.
And he's like, well, it's $100,000 the program,
No más.
nada más. Y the students go and work at restaurants as waitresses. And I'm like, maybe I'm in the wrong field. Maybe I should be a waitress if they pay $100,000. I joked. Like, if you can make $100K being a waitress, then what am I doing even going to school, right? Anyway, so that was a thing. He didn't like my joke. And then I left, and I was in the subway car ride home, and I'm like, well, if I want to be a photographer, I'm going to figure out a way to do it without spending $100K.
Mm.
Yeah, so that was like a pivotal moment, and I'm like, I need to figure this out. But then, life got in the way, and then 2 years passed. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I found a course, like a semester course, a beginner's course, and I went into that. And the funny thing is that the instructor had gone to that school and had done a master's in photography, and I'm
The
like,
one that you don't want to pay $100K for.
exactly. So he paid the $100K, and then I got sort of like a little bit of the education. So that's where the interest sparked. That was a really good class. I really loved it. Then I moved to Denver. My wife got a job here. She was my girlfriend back then.
Did you meet in Puerto Rico?
Yes, we've known each other since the year 2000, and we were best friends for 4 years.
How fun. I love relationships that start in friendship. Those are the best.
Oh yeah, we were best friends. I knew everything about her, and she knew everything about me. So there's like nothing that could, like, she would call, like, we are the first relationship that we each had with a woman, and we got married. So
That's a whole other podcast, Flor.
that's a whole other podcast. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I have so many questions, but we're going to bring you back, obviously, to talk about love, because I know you have a great relationship with your wife. And so there's a lot of layers there that I'm ready to unpack. But let's keep it in line. Okay, so you're girlfriends now. You're in a relationship in Denver. To bring it back to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then the professor that took the program that you didn't want to pay $100K for is now teaching you.
Yeah, he taught me, and then after I was done with the program, that was about like 6 months. Then we were. Ilya I had moved to Denver, and then I stayed behind so I could finish. And then I moved, and I found a job in Denver, and we were out eating lunch with my wife's boss at the time, and I found a magazine. It was a photography magazine that was like laying around in this restaurant. And it turned out that it was like a photography club that they had in Denver. And when I saw the magazine, I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to do in Denver what I did in New York, which was just like do nothing about photography. So, and I just joined that club. And and they put out a magazine every couple months. They put out shows every couple of months as well. They had a theme, and I just saw it as if I was in a reality show. Like, like in my mind, it was funny because they're like, so when my friends were like, so you're not going to participate in this show? I'm like, no, I'm just going to act like I have immunity, because reality shows were really popular back in 2008. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to participate in this one. Maybe next thing will call on me. And then the recession hit, and I was working at this job. I was an admin for two departments. So, and one of the departments was the communications department. And then the recession hit, and we had a big event coming up, and they couldn't afford the photographer that they usually had. And I said, I have a camera. If you want, I can take the pictures of the event, and if you don't like them, I can, like, it's okay. You can go back to hiring the photographer. And then they never hire the photographer ever again.
Wow. Okay, let's take a pause. We're going to take a quick coffee break, and then we'll come back to the story. So, Flor, talk to me about your snack.
Yes.
So you're drinking cafecito. How are you drinking it? And then how are you pairing it? What are you pairing it with?
Okay, so I drink black coffee with black sugar, because I'm super black. And that has nothing to do with it. I just learned I just tried to drink coffee when, Dominicans.
Con azúcar morena.
Con azúcar morena, sí. Dominicans give their kids coffee since like they're out of the womb. So I've been drinking coffee since I was little. And then I stopped for a second because I thought it was bad for you, teens. And then as soon as I moved out on my own, I went back to it, and I've never looked back. So, and I am pairing it with pan sobao, which is, this is just a little bit of pan sobao, which is a sweet bread that's done here in Puerto Rico. And I'm addicted to bread since I was born. But then when I found pan sobao, because it's sweet, then it just enhanced my addiction to bread.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm in Café con Pan, and I'm like, I'm going to have Café con Pan.
Why not?
So
I love it.
Because why would I miss this opportunity?
I mean, I'm going to start making that a requirement for future guests. You need to have your bread.
Yeah, so absolutely. And then they can have roscas, and they can have all kinds of bread.
All kinds of bread. Right. Croissant. Well, that's fun. You're much more funner than I am. I'm drinking water. So I'm at that time of the day. It's 12, almost 1 o'clock here.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's almost 5 here. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And y mírala tomando café todavía. No. Yo no puedo.
So my family drinks coffee
24/7.
4 or 5, like 4 or 5 times a day. Yeah. I mean, I don't. I drink coffee in the morning, and then I have another one around 3-ish. I made this one for this, so that was around 4-ish. And if I go, and then I usually stop. But if I go visit my mom or something, they're gonna make coffee, and I'm gonna be having coffee at 8 p.m.
¿Y puedes dormir?
Yeah, we're just used to it.
That's wild.
It is espresso coffee too, because we make it in a greca. So
yeah, Dominican coffee is no joke.
Yeah, but I can totally go to sleep. It's no issue.
Wow, I wish. Well, cuando te tomes un cafecito en la noche, drink warm for me, because I can't. I literally have to stop my coffee at like 11. No, actually, I can push it. I can push it to like 2 or 3 p.m.
Okay.
Pero después de ahí, it's too much. It's too much. So yeah, on my end, I'm boring today. I am just doing water. And yeah, I don't have a shout out today. Well, there's Cafe Crawl in San Diego coming on up, and I think I'm going. And I'm trying to decide the route. Basically, they give you a route of coffee shops to visit, and you buy a ticket, and then you get to taste whatever it is. And so I'm trying to decide because I have like 8 different routes. And I'm like, there's so many coffee shops that I want to visit. So I'm trying to decide. And once I do that, I'll have more local coffee shops to give shout outs to. But
Yes. And then they can send you coffee.
I
They
know.
can actually send you their own coffee so then you can have it and make an informed shout out like decision, right? Like who are you gonna, because you're tasting that
I
cup.
know. One day we're going to get to a place where coffee shops are going to send the guest a cup of coffee and me a cup of coffee. I mean, eventually the dream is to like meet in person and have like actual cup of coffee at the Café con Pam coffee shop. But we'll get there one day.
Oh my God, that's gonna be amazing. Okay, I'll bring some pan sobao for you, and it's
Oof,
gonna be amazing.
I can't
Yes.
wait. I can't wait. Yeah, my whole idea is to have a podcast booth in the middle of the coffee shop, and then like, like people actually could choose to listen to the episode live, or do their thing.
That is so cool. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm
but
excited for you. This is gonna
thank
happen.
you. It is gonna happen. Okay, let's get back to the show. Hola, Vanis. By the way, if you are enjoying this conversation and you want to keep talking about it, if you have some comments and maybe some questions that you have, follow me on social media and let's keep that conversation going. This is your reminder to screenshot and tag me at Café con Pan Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And let's keep talking about it. Tell me what's resonating. Tell me what isn't. Tell me, what do you wish I asked the guest? This is your chance. And if you're on TikTok, I'm at Café con Pan Pod as well. Let's stay connected. Bueno, Flor, I do want to bring you back and talk about love, because this awesome relationship that you have with your wife, it's like, like a Hallmark movie, maybe. It sounds like. And so
Sometimes there's like lifetime drama in there, but then it comes back.
sometimes it becomes a telenovela.
Yeah, a telenovela, yeah. But right now, it's pretty Hallmark right now. It's really, we're a little nauseating, I think, for some people.
Well, but I think it's important to highlight queer stories too,
Yeah.
because we don't, like, Hallmark movies are so binary that let's expand on that and share awesome stories of anyone outside of men and women.
Exactly. Yes.
So let's bring it back to where we stopped before the coffee break. So you volunteer yourself and you're like, you have this event coming up. You can't afford a photographer. I'm volunteering myself because I have a camera. Let's do it. And they're like, okay, sure. Because it sounds like they almost had no other option, kind of. And because, there's no budget. So
There's no budget, but they could have found it. But it's free. I already work there. So
right. So it was kind of like an easy exit. And you did such a great job that they never went back to hiring somebody else. At that point, was that an addendum to an added thing that they just kind of paired up with your current job? Or did they eventually start paying you to photograph? Or how, like, did you transition into being the full-time photographer? How did that work?
so I was just sort of like doing it on top of my work. Um, that's how nonprofits work, and I was okay with it. Like I was happy to have the opportunity to expand my portfolio, to learn. Eventually, one of the cool things about this job, even though let's keep in mind it's a nonprofit and they didn't pay that much money, but they did have professional development money, right? And they had tuition reimbursement money. So I was very adamant of using that money. And so I found workshops where I could use the professional development money. And then I found a certification where I could use that. It was a graphic design certification that I found that I was able to use with the tuition reimbursement money. So I definitely took advantage of all the opportunities that were available. And at the same time, I went to every conference that was available. Like some years I had to decide if I wanted to go to the conference and use my professional development money for that, or if I was going to use it for a photography thing. And eventually, so they created a magazine. This nonprofit created a magazine that was published twice a year. And then, so I was doing some of the pictures for them for a while. And then management changed, and the new boss wanted to keep the magazine but wanted to elevate it. And so they said, I think, they said, you do really cool stuff on your own. Why don't you do that cool stuff here? And I'm like, well, I need lighting equipment and all those things, because I'm like,
Right.
I do cool stuff with whatever I have at home, but I don't know if that's going to work out with like photographing donors and all of the people, all of the fancy people that we work with. And they said, then we'll get you lighting, we'll get you a new camera, and so that was like the beginning of the second era of me working at the nonprofit. It was really cool. We had something like my one of my coworkers. We had a writer. We had the communications coordinator that came with us, and he would like record, film the experience with his phone. So we were sort of like this charm squad. That's how they named us. And it was really exciting for donors to have us come in. Some donors had like a spread for us, and it was really cool. Others, it was a fun experience. And I highly developed my skills during that time, because my boss kept saying, our inspiration is Vanity Fair. And I'm like,
Whoa.
yeah, sure. I know, right? So I'm like, okay, so our inspiration is Vanity Fair, no pressure. And it was a great way to put into practice everything that I learned over the years. And when I went to workshops, and doing that as well, I've developed my relationships with like everybody in Denver. So if you're in a nonprofit and you're in Denver, you probably know me, right? Because I either photograph your organization or I photograph your donors. So that's how and it's cool because at the same time, a lot of transition happened, like meet the time that I worked there, because I worked there for a long time. And a lot of the people that left are now CEOs in other organizations. And then they call me to when they have really cool opportunities. And I remember one that called, and I always talk about this because I want to emphasize that when you are a creative and you are starting out and you want to develop your business, relationships that you already have are where it's at. This is where you need to put your energy. Yes, you can be on Facebook all day, you can be on Instagram all day, but the real people that you already know are the people that are gonna, when you're talented and you're passionate and you are letting everybody know that, develop your relationships. So
I love that.
yes, oh, it's so important, and I don't know that enough people talk about it.
Porque les da pena.
I know, right? And I get it, and I'm not saying that you should like harass people at all either.
What's your secret in that sense? Porque mucha gente dice que les da pena. Like, I know, qué pena reaching out and asking for help.
Bueno, porque es que you can't just reach out for opportunities. You have to genuinely develop a relationship, right? So I know all of my ex-bosses' birthdays. I know everybody that worked with me. I know their birthdays. I always say happy birthday on their birthday. When I go to Denver, I try to see people in person. We try to like go to lunch. These two departments that I work at the beginning of my, like, when I say beginning, it's like 4 years, like it's a long time. So we still meet, like everybody's working in a different place. Some of us have our own businesses. We still meet and have dinners together like twice a year. So it is like for real a real relationship. These people went to my wedding, or at least one of them or two of them, because we'll talk about that later, to the same person. So yes, so these are real relationships that you have to. Yes, te va a dar pena. I get it. Pero si es gente que tú conoces de verdad, then reach out. Then like I know I love when I get a text with people like, "Hey, how are you?" Even if it's 3 seconds, people are excited to see you texted. I texted my one of my ex bosses, my former bosses the other day, because she gave me a pair of earrings with Wonder Woman. And I love, because I love Wonder Woman, and so every time I wear these earrings, I think of her. And the other day, I'm like, I'm wearing my Wonder Woman earrings, and I thank you. That was such a thoughtful gift, and because these people, I care about these people, and I care about most people that I care about most people that I work with and meet, because there's too much hate in the world to not love for no reason, right? So then I'm loving for no reason as well. So I immediately love you.
I love that. And I could concur.
Right? Because but it's true. Like you gotta develop your relationship. So that's like, if we're thinking about us, like and it's this is Café con Pam, and I'm guessing that a lot of Latinas are listening.
Majority of them.
So that, like, it is in our blood as Latinas to talk to people. Like, I walk around here in Puerto Rico and people stop me and they say, "Oh my God, I love your hair. Oh my God, I love your," like, where did you get it? Like, they, sometimes tell me too much, because they come in and like, they grab it, like, "Where did you get this shirt?"
Y empieza la plática y no acabas.
Exacto. And so, like, we already are trained to develop relationships.
Right.
Like, that's how we're raised, right? So, no les de pena. Like, talk to people, develop actual relationships with people, and they will, if you keep working and you keep showing up and you keep, like, putting your work out there, people are going to remember you when it matters and when it matters to you. So,
we need to close soon, but we have so much more to talk about. So you definitely need to come back. I think the next conversation with Café con Pam is going to be in person, because you're so much fun in person. And I mean, you're fun virtually, where you're much funner in person. And when we met at an event. And to your point of, as Latinas, we just, like, it's in our blood to kind of like build relationships. I saw you and I was like, ella tiene algo que we need to be friends. And I don't know how we started talking, but I was like, I think I complimented your glasses. I think that like, a compliment is a great conversation starter. And then te pregunté, ¿no? ¿Hablas español? And you're like, sí, claro. And I'm like, oh my gosh, great. We can be friends. And so we've been talking ever since. Pero el punto es, now you're also a celebrity photographer, and now that we have a little bit more background, did you ever feel intimidated to be in front of Michelle Obama, Gloria Estefan, Octavia Spencer, Gloria Steinem, Rigoberta Menchú, like Misty, so many people that you photographed? Did you ever feel like, ooh, intimidated in some way?
well, I think the excitement of being in the same room with these incredible women, sort of like clouded any intimidation that I had. I also couldn't allow myself to be intimidated, because then everything technically speaking, or the technology can go wrong. That's what I mean. Like, if I let myself be intimidated into frightened that I'm gonna photograph Michelle Obama, then for sure my lights are not gonna work, and then I'm gonna be too freaked out to not like figure it out. However, I will say that Facebook memories. I don't know, like 15, 16 years ago, I like Facebook memories reminded me that I like, oh my God, I'm going to photograph a millionaire. It was one of the donors at the place. and I'm a little intimidated. So even though I didn't remember that I wasn't, that I, like in my mind, I've never been intimidated. No, I put it on Facebook. I said, I'm like, I'm a little nervous. And everybody was like, girl, they're just like you got this. And one thing that I will say is that I've always treated everybody. So that was like a lapse in judgment when I wrote that on Facebook. But I remember meeting like the consul from Mexico one time and inviting him to have drinks to my house. I told Rigoberta Menchú, which was the first big person that I photographed. I sort of like, what? Rigoberta Menchú is here? Why didn't you tell me? And so I ran to the event where she was. I told her, Smile, you're so gorgeous, girl. Like, estás rica. And she laughed. And so my wife loves telling that story. And so because I like in my essence, like as Latinas, I feel like in Dominicans, we think that we're friendly and we think that we, talk and we talk to everybody. So in a way, yes, I was intimidated like at the beginning, like when I started photographing people that write $1 million checks for organizations. So by the time that I got to the celebrities, I think I was pretty much como curada de espanto, ¿no? Porque ya lo había trabajado. Pero si hubiese sido la primera vez con Michelle Obama, I mean, I'm like, ah! But by the time I photographed Michelle Obama, I had photographed Rigoberta and Gloria Steinem. So it was like I got it down.
Right, for sure. And so what would you say? Because I loved your story of I wanted to do this and I made it happen despite what traditionally, because the traditional path would have been like, go get your master's on it. But you were like, you know what? Lo vamos a hacer, pero lo vamos a hacer diferente. So what would you say to those people who are thinking about doing something, but there's an obstacle? Because we could say que un obstáculo que se te presentó era to pay $1,000 or $100,000 for this program. And you chose to say, I'm going to find another way.
There's always a way where there's, that's like, if you want to do something, and I'm probably going to start crying again. I just watched this film, A Million Miles Away, which I highly recommend to every person that, with a dream to watch it and without a dream. I don't know if you know about this film. It's about the story of this, migrant farmer who became an astronaut. And I was crying since the movie started.
Yes.
It was amazing. It's so good. So run and watch that movie. And one thing, and I think I was crying the whole time because he lays out, like his dad tells him what to do, like identify your goal, figure out a way, like figure out how far you are, figure out the steps to do it. And when you think you made it, then that's when things are going to get harder, right? So, and it's exactly like that. Like, and that's why I was crying the whole time. And, also being an immigrant, right? It's just like, right. I was so, it's like, it's so hard. It is so hard for so many families, right? And being here talking to you, because you're a big deal, Pam, like you're amazing. And I've talked to people that work in podcasts and they're like, I'm trying to get my client into Pam's podcast, like literally. So like you are a big deal. I am honored that I'm here because it's a big deal to me as well.
Thank you.
But what I would say is watch the film if you're having doubts, because it is laid out for you. One, to educate yourself. Don't let a big obstacle, like in my case at $100,000 when you're 26 years old, stop you from, like I said, I'm not gonna let this stop me. And then I went and found a course, and by the heavens, the person that's teaching the course went to this school as well, and they told me, oh my God, you have talent, like you have an eye. And so that, like little by little, and obviously surround yourself with people that are going to believe in you, that see your talent and are not putting you down, but they're rising you up. Is that a word? They're raising you up. I don't know.
Te levantan.
te levantan, te ponen, te ayudan, te empujan para que llegues a tus sueños. And I think having good people around you, that's that is a good foundation for you to get to where you need to go.
100%. I think surrounding yourself with people that uplift you is so important. I can share a little tiny anecdote. When I started my business, I lost, I would say, 99% of my friends because I had to say no. Primero no tenía dinero. Entonces they were partying, they were like, everyone had a corporate job. And on the week, they were the people that were looking forward to the weekend. And they were like, let's go out. And I'm like, well, no, uno, no tengo, no me alcanza. Y otro, I'm not about that life anymore. And so I found myself in that lonely place that a lot of people talk about, pero al mismo tiempo, then it's this choice of how are you going to deal with that obstacle to say, okay, if I'm losing all these people, how could I find people that are more aligned with me? And so then I started seeking spaces and places where other aligned folks like you and exist. And then, adult friendships can happen. Porque creo que hay veces que a la gente le da miedito como losing the friends that they've been friends with for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. That is something that is very real, especially when at the same time that you are pursuing your passion and your entrepreneurship and your creative goals, you're also most likely that's tied to personal growth and wanting to better in yourself and wanting to um, just just become better, get to know yourself better, and actually seek. I am a big spokesperson for therapy. I mean, I love my therapist. So when you go and deal with all of your issues that are also stopping you, because when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of stuff comes up,
100%.
like all this stuff, and you have to deal with it.
Totally. I tell them, if you want to deal with your trauma, start a business. And then they say, how long is it going to take? I love getting that question when coaching clients come to me and they're like, how long is it going to take to work on this? I'm like, oh, nice joke. La mejor pregunta en realidad es que no es una pregunta. It's more about making the decision to start, because that is sometimes harder than thinking about how long is it going to take. Because once you start working on all of your stuff, it's never ending. We're always going to be a work in progress. But really, the work is getting started and then understanding that nunca termina.
And it's like learning how to like yourself again with all this stuff, and it's like and being very compassionate, having and giving yourself grace of the things that you didn't know, and now that you know better, then you do better. So just being aware that all of these things, like becoming a better version of yourself to yourself, I'm not saying to the world, but to yourself, it's going to trigger some people.
For sure.
And then those people are not going to be in your life anymore, right? Because you're not where they are. And it's not even like it's like growing apart. You know how when people leave each other, it's like we grew apart. I didn't understand that because I've been with my wife for 19 years and we've been married for 13. So I'm like, what do you mean you grow apart? Can you grow together? And then it happened with friends, So I'm like, oh, I get it. So I'm in a whole different place right now, and I know. And then you have to mourn those friendships that are not with you, because it's literally it's losing a part of you that you didn't have, that you don't have anymore, right? So then you have to give yourself grace because those people are not in your life anymore, or not at least in the way that they were, and you have to love them like completely instead of wanting them. So that's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast, my friend.
But yes, but understand that entrepreneurship it's a lonely place, and that's why you have to surround yourself with good people that, even though they're not entrepreneurs themselves, they're going to support you regardless of where they are. And like Pam said, find the spaces where you know that you're going to find like-minded people and come and say, oh my God, I love your glasses, right? Because that's what Pam did. Like compliments are great, of course, but just find those people and then develop them. Like we're talking here, but Pam and I, we have Zoom meetings often,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk about everything. We talk about our what is it, the strength finder strengths. She educated me on those things, and I just did the strength finder again. So we'll have to have another conversation about that.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm excited that because now I have all this info. But anyway, but because I digress, and but that means that we've been developing this relationship with each other for the over the last year. Because this doesn't just happen. You have to
Right.
cultivate it. Yes.
And it's not like tampoco, it's not like we talk all the time. Like literally, we could go months. And then
Hmm.
I think it's also about not making it awkward with the friendship because, like, por ejemplo, if I think about something, I'm like, oh my gosh, let me text Flor. Like, Flor, por ejemplo, there's an event in Puerto Rico that you're speaking at. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit. I was going to go. And so, de repente, I message you and I'm like, hey, do you recommend any places in Puerto Rico? Because you live there, right? But it's not like we have to be, porque a veces también for, especially for the introverts, they're like, oh my gosh, it sounds so exhausting. No, it doesn't have to be a high pressure friendship. I love low pressure friendships, but where there's no expectation. You literally just trust that whenever you need to connect with a person, you will connect and make it genuine, authentic, loving, caring, and then, we continue to do life.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Thank you. Tell us all the places and spaces where we can find you and what is coming up for you.
Oh my God. Everywhere. So I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere I am. It's Flor Blake, all one word, except for Instagram, and that's another story. So it's Flor_Blake. I'm very active on Instagram and on LinkedIn, believe it or not. I love LinkedIn. So find me there. And I'm really super duper excited because there's a big event. It's a conference called ROI, the Millionaire Summit. And I was selected to speak the beginning of the conference, woo, along
Yay.
with 4 other people. We each have our own thing that we're talking about. So right now I'm working on that speech that's going to happen next Wednesday. So
Lo van a grabar.
I'm hoping that they do. My wife is coming, so I'm just gonna set her up with like a little tripod thingy so she can so she can see me and record at the same time, so she
For
doesn't have
sure.
that pressure of.
I love that.
So that's coming up. I also have like the day before, I have an event that I'm developing that's called the Radiance event. And it's a power portrait and content creation event that's going to happen the day before. But I'm really excited because now I have people in Denver asking me about it. So it's going to become sort of like a little series that I made do quarterly. And and I have my VIP days that I do. I call them my A-lister days, where you hang out with me for a whole day and we create your whole library of pictures with your brand stories, and it's amazing and people love it and they are forever transformed with the experience.
Yay. Did you give us your website?
Oh, it's florblakePhoto.com.
Great.
Just social. Just find me there. Everything's fine. Yeah. Flor Blake Photo, florblakePhoto.com. And I think I sent you a link
Yep.
where people can find my freebie. And the freebie is, I call it the Gorgeous Guide. And it's a guide to take your own photos when I'm not there, to take great photos even if I'm not there. So I talk about everything like lighting and how to pose and everything, and it's free. So there's like really 9 really great tips in there that I hope that when you use them, you just tag me and like, Flor, I took my photo with your tips and they're amazing.
I love that. Okay, so last few questions. This has been so fun. Of course, we could stay talking forever. When we meet in person, because I go to Denver from time to time, and when we match, that you're in Denver and I'm in Denver, we eat and then we have to literally put a timer so we can stop ourselves because we could literally talk for hours. Last few questions. Do you have a remedio that you want to share with us? And I know you fought me on Vicks, but we've done that one.
I did. I mean, what are we gonna do? This is how we're raised. Okay, so I will give you two things. So aloe vera, my mom swears by it. Savila, she always has una mata de savila in the house, and whatever a cut, a sit, whatever it is, she goes and cuts the aloe vera and she puts it on the sit, or she puts it, or like we live in Puerto Rico, so we get sunburn. So actual
Is when we
aloe
see
vera
more
helps
of
that sun. Yeah, it's really good for it. And I texted my mom, but my mom, oh, she just sent me the picture.
Yay.
Oh, look at us. Okay, so there is this brand that has, it's literally called Melaleuca. So the brand is Melaleuca, and they have an oil. It's like an ounce bottle of a very potent oil that smells really pungent. But my mom swears by it. And if you have a headache, she says, ponte el aceitito. If your feet hair, ponte el aceitito. If you have allergies, just like, ya te pusiste el aceitito? So,
that's her version of Vicks.
literally, it's like, that movie, My Big Fat Great Wedding, that the dad is obsessed with Windex. So my mom is obsessed with the Melaleuca oil. I'll send you the picture that she sends me so you can share with people.
Perfect.
I don't know where you can get it, but she gets it. And she puts bottles of it in my wife's purse, in my bags.
That's
Everybody
fun.
gets an aceitito. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it does work. My wife hates how it smells. But if she has a headache, she puts it on, and then she doesn't have a headache.
Wow.
So it does work. It actually does work.
Okay. And what's your quote or mantra that you live by?
I think right now, that my mantra is to go for it. That's it. Just go for whatever it is that you want to do. Life is too short. Literally, 2023 was a hard year for us because we lost a lot of really good people in our lives. And one of the friends that passed, it was really hard because he and his family embody the live in the moment, stay in the present, enjoy your life. And he literally passed on vacation, and it was really hard for us, for everybody. And one thing that I know and that I will take with me forever is that I know that he lived his life to the fullest, and he gave his life. He was so generous with everybody that he ever met, whether he met you since you were little or he just met you, he would invite you over for dinner. And that's how I try to live my life. But with this hard year that we had in that sense, go for it, do what you want to do. Don't let fear stop you, because we don't know where we're going to be. There's this techno song that's really popular right now. It's called Esta Vida Me Encanta, and I'll send it to you. And it just says, like, we don't know where we're going to be tomorrow, so just enjoy your life and go for it. Don't let anything hold you back.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I'm sorry about your friend and your losses.
Thank you.
The last question, do you have a productivity tip, trick, or tool that you want to share with us?
It's a very simple thing, and it's the Notes app on my phone. I am a very visual person. I have a notes and my Notes app. I live by that. Like, I have every idea that I come up with, I write it down. Like, people forget that they have that Notes app there. But I write down there's my to-do lists are there, the grocery list is there, my business plans are in my Notes app. Then I move them. The cool thing is that you can email them to yourself when it's something serious, right? So the Notes app is actually, like, if you don't have it, I mean, you have it, because every phone has it.
Right.
Use it more. It's so helpful. And then remember that you have it there, because that's the thing. So I have it. The way that I have my apps divided on my phone, I have everything that is social under a folder that's called I am connected. Anything that has to do with my business, I have something called with I am wealthy. So my notes app is there, so it's easy to access. Anything that I use with for my marketing is I am creative. And then anything like podcast and all those things, I am inspired. So divide your folders by that. So then you say your affirmations while you're looking at your phone.
I love that. I have mine like that too.
Oh, you do? Yay!
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we're friends.
I know. I'll show you next time. I am supported. I am aligned. I am smart. I am confident. I am at ease. I have so many folders. But yeah, it does. It's kind of like the little like tiny nudges that you give yourself.
Yes, yes. I have my affirmations that I go in there. The notes app is amazing. Like you can see my whole brain just dumped into this little app. It's crazy.
I love that. Bueno, Flor, thank you so much for coming to Café con Pam. We're definitely going to bring you back. We'll find another time, hopefully in person. Thank you for sharing your story. You're awesome.
Listeners, stay shining.
Sabrosura pa' tu que.
All right, listeners, ahí quedó la entrevista. If you enjoyed it, I hope you did. And if you're watching it on the tube, subscribe. Please do click the subscribe button. If you're listening to it on the podcast, do click the follow button or subscribe, depending on where you listen to. Reviews and comments help a ton, especially because ahí me puedes decir en realidad how you really feel. I hope it's always good. And if you have constructive criticism, that one, frankly, a review doesn't, I mean, it does help, I guess, but that's something that you can tell me directly. Pero se agradece, se agradece. Make sure to follow Café con Pam on all the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you stream your podcast. Of course, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the little tiny bell that is somewhere down here so you can get notified when we drop a new episode. You can download the Latina Podcast Network app if you want to explore other podcasts. And thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time, I so appreciate you exploring and joining us. And I hope you stay and come back and bring your cafecito and bring your pan like Flor did. Like, I was so impressed and so touched that she actually went to get pan. OMG. I need to have pan next time we have Café con Pam. Pero bueno, if you're new here, again, bienvenide. I hope you stay. I hope you feel like this is home and return. I would love to stay connected. Of course, on the socials at Café con Pam Podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, at Café con Pam Pod, on TikTok. I have a quiz that you can take. As you know, I'm a recovering procrastinator, and if you want to discover the type of procrastinator that you are, you can take my quiz. Go to cafeconpam.com and it will be there. If you are curious about working with me, I'm a coach. I've been doing this for a little minute. I am an accidental coach turned into certified in all the things, including tapping. I'm an EFT practitioner, certified EFT practitioner, and also I am trained in matrix brain printing, which is a whole other technique that maybe if you're curious, we'll talk about. However, a great, easy way to work with me in all of those various modalities that I've learned is to join the Manis Pass. And the Manis Pass is an annual all-access pass that you can join, and it's pretty affordable, TBH. And you join us. We have calls, group calls. We have goal setting. We have cafecito every Friday, one of my favorite calls of the week. Super fun. And you can find it at cafeconpam.com. I feel like already 2024 is doing us so much better. And if you're watching the video, I'm so curious. I'm actually genuinely curious to know who watches the videos. Por otro lado, a little quick update. I have been super MIA from social media. I've been taking a break. social media at the end of 2023, it felt a little overwhelming for me. And I literally go there and post because I'm required. I'm legally required to post. So the things that I post is because I'm supposed to post them. But I've personally sharing too much has been something that I've just radically is my radical act of self-care to go a little inward. So in case you're wondering, that's what I've been doing, and it's felt great to not feel the pressure to share on specifically Instagram. It has been kind of heavy, but maybe we'll return. I don't know. I've been hanging out on Threads, and now YouTube has been kind of fun actually to think about the potential videos that we can do and sitting down and doing them and planning them out. It's been super fun. And I'm looking at our friends from Nomono. So this little capsule, you can see it says Nomono. It's our friend that has been traveling with us throughout the country as we have been recording episodes on the go. And it's become one of my favorite tools because it's awesome. As you can see, compact. I carry literally, this is the capsule. It's called a sound capsule. And so, those of you listening to the podcast, this is your invitation to come join us and subscribe on YouTube because we are about to be sharing additional episodes that only are going to be YouTube exclusives. And these are going to be recorded with this handy dandy, awesome Nomono capsule that is fantastic. You'll get to hear the incredible sound that this little tiny machine records, and you'll get to hear from pretty cool people that we are interviewing because we have a little camera and we have a sound studio, a mobile sound studio. So it's really fun. Big shout out to Nomono for trusting us with this project. That's my update. I hope your 2024 is treating you well. The world is still falling apart and there's so much grief that we are still going through. This is not to ignore, not to be ignored. It's real and it's there. And I think it's important to acknowledge the various realities that we have been living with. And one is existing with so much grief and having to deal with it and discerning what is the next step for us, for humanity, for the world, because it's a lot. And so 2023 dragged us pretty solidly, a lot of us, many of us, and in so many different various ways. And so I think while we are still witnessing a lot of suffering and going through our own grief from witnessing or from having experienced loss, it's a parallel that's sometimes difficult to exist within because we can find those moments of joy that are also so important for us to continue to exist, to continue to have the strength, to continue to keep moving forward as much as we may feel like we are being pulled back. And so I wanted to share that because I also want to acknowledge the realities that I may show up here sometimes all happy, but in realidad, like everyone's going through something. So check on your strong friends, listeners, because you never know who might need just a little quick check-in. Thank you for being here, como siempre. Stay shining.
Sabrosura pa' ti que